Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Welcome. I'm Jason Boog. I'm the editorial lead at Fable. I'm also an author and a journalist, but you've probably just seen me around the Fable for You feed, the newsletters, and the blogs. I'm usually writing something for Fable almost every day. And please, I said this earlier, but say hello in the comments. This is as much your time to talk to our team as it is our time. So please put your questions and thoughts in the chat down there. And Ellen will be here answering your questions and helping make sure we see your questions throughout the whole thing. So thank you so much. And Ellen, just in case you've never met her on Fable, she's head of hiring here at Fable and is also a really active force in both the TV and the book side of things on Fable. And she's just a really lovely person in our community.
She wears many hats, I want to add. We're a small company. A lot of us do literally whatever it takes. And Ellen's really great at helping us with talent and all the culture and processes we have at Fable to develop our talent, but also within our community. She helps us with support and is a big part of a Fable super user. So we're very happy to have her on the team.
Thanks, Padma.
Thank you
I love it here.
Awesome. And thank you, Ellen, for helping out in the chat today, too. I really appreciate it. Before we go any further, I want to say this is a very special night. We're joined tonight by Padma Warrior, the founder and CEO of Fable. We're just so fortunate to have her tonight, and it's always great. She's one of my favorite people to talk about books with, and movies and shows. So we're gonna have a really fun, cool conversation tonight, and I feel fortunate that we're all here together to talk. And then also we have Chris, our head of product. And Chris, you see him all the time posting about our different product updates and things like that. So Chris, welcome as well.
Yeah, thanks. Excited to have another one of these.
Yeah, so let's just jump in. And Padma, since we do have you here tonight, I would love to, maybe for people who are newer to Fable, who have never met you before, could you just tell us a little about yourself, how you started Fable, and how our new move to television is kind of part of your vision for the future?
Great. Thank you, Jason. And thank you, Chris, for joining us today as well. Hello, everyone. It's a great pleasure for me to have this virtual conversation with all of you. So maybe a little bit about myself in case you don't see me or read with me on Fable. I've been in the tech industry for over 3 decades. I started Fable 4 years ago. Prior to that, I had a C-level job in a very large Fortune 100 company. I'm an engineer by training. I grew up in India in a very small town in southern India and came to the US as an immigrant graduate student. When I came to the US, I was one of very few women in a very male-dominated industry. And throughout my life, books were sort of a solace for me. I loved reading books. They helped me relax. They helped me imagine places I would want to go to. In fact, I feel like reading about the US is what made me want to come to this country and help me move here and adjust and settle in quickly. But long story short, I think when I was a CTO for a very large company, I got very interested in how we might use technology to help people more directly with our health and with our wellness. So initially, when I left a large corporate job, my goal was to do something in the healthcare industry. I was looking at things like computational pathology, how we might use data and AI to help detect cancer faster. But as I was reading about health and wellness and some of the problems I want to tackle as the next chapter in my life, I came across a lot of data that was pointing out to how mental wellness is on the decline globally. So I'm talking about mental wellness and not illness. So things like anxiety, stress, loneliness, feeling a lack of self-worth. We all go through this, in our lives. And this is now becoming, according to scientists, the second pandemic. It affects everyone, regardless of our age, our income, where we live. This actually caught my attention, and I got very interested in is there a solution for this? It's just like the physical fitness movement started with walk 10,000 steps a day. Is there an equivalent for mental wellness? And I came across a lot of papers that talked about the power of stories and how stories could be used as a tool and are used as a tool to help people cope with mental wellness. And, according to scientists, and I'm not a neuroscientist, but according to those who are experts in this field, they say reading and listening simultaneously. If you're listening to, for example, an audiobook and reading a print book, that's the best from a mental wellness point of view, followed by reading a print book, followed by an ebook, audiobook, or watching a show, watching a movie, any kind of a story that immerses your mind inside the story, because our mind is imagining the setting, relating to the people, keeping track of the timeline. All these things help us with mental wellness. So that is the motivation. I really wanted to create a fun, interactive, safe community for people to discover great stories, discuss great stories with like-minded people, and then organize the stories that they've read, which ones did they like, which ones they didn't like, and share those as well. And that was the motivation for starting Fable. Now we're about 4 years old. I put my own money into the company to bootstrap it in the early days and recruited a great team that's helping me build out this product to hopefully everyone who enjoys stories.
Thank you, Padma. It's always so good to hear that story, and I hope people who didn't know it. I'm really glad that you're able to hear it. But I do want to ask too, just because it's a cool opportunity because I do love talking books and shows with you. What are you reading right now, and what are you watching? And please, everyone else, chime in.
Yeah, I'm always reading something. I mean, these days I have a very active book club on Fable with over 2,000 great people who read with me. It's my book club, very unimaginative name. It's called Read with Padma. It's not very creative from a name perspective. We just finished reading Memory Police, and we are right now reading Anita de Monte Laughs Last. It's a great book. It's about two women, set in a different time zone, and they're both artists, and she exposes, the barriers people face in the art world in general, especially if you are a minority in the art world. So I'm really enjoying that book. What am I watching? I'm watching A Gentleman in Moscow. I love that show. I love the book. And I just started watching Shogun. I'm 2 episodes in. I know there's active TV clubs. I actually joined them so that I can catch up in watching them. Next on my list is Fallout. I want to watch that next. It's getting a lot of great reviews. I think, I tend to also read a couple of books at the same time. Typically, I read like a fiction, and then I'm also reading a poetry book. I just finished that actually. So probably if you follow me, you'll see it in my monthly wrap. Just finished that book of poems. It's another great set of poems that I love to read.
That's awesome. I do want to just kind of set the rules, or just tell everyone how the rest of the conversation is going to work tonight. So we will, what we'll do is I'll keep my eye here. I see we already have our first question in the Q&A section, so I'll be asking that shortly. And please keep your questions coming. I will make sure they get asked tonight. I will try to answer them roughly in the order that we receive them. And then to start though, I would like to cover the basics, talking about this update, and kind of some basic things about it, and to make sure those questions are answered first, and then I'll move on to the rest of your questions. So please keep them coming. If someone asks a question in the chat that you approve of, or you have a follow-up question to, put a thumbs up emoji there. And I think the most important thing, and I work every day to try to make it feel like this, is we want to make Fable just a fun and safe community. So we really appreciate that everyone is being so lovely and supportive of each other in the comments. Thank you for doing that. I'll try to keep taking questions until 6 p.m. or whatever point we've answered all the questions. Those are the ground rules. So let's just jump in here. I'm going to just turn to Padma first. So you told us the story of how we got here with Fable, and why did we choose TV as the next story format after books? What signals did you see? What made you think that that was a good step for the community to take next?
Yeah, it's a great question. Maybe I'll just step back and say, when we think about stories, how do I think about a story, right? Like for me, the story is what really matters. I think, some large corporations think about a book as an object and they focus on how do they ship it to you fastest for the lowest price. And for me, whether it's a book or a TV show or a movie, that's the vessel that carries the story in. And what matters really is the creator or the author and how did they create this beautiful experience called the story, whether we read it or watch it or listen to it, or sometimes play it, like games these days, like Fallout, right, was a game and it's made into a TV show. Games are stories too. And so when you look at the science on what really helps mental wellness, it's the story that helps us, because the story is what's immersive, not necessarily the format. So my goal always has been, our vision at Fable is stories for everyone. And we really wanted to build an inclusive platform for everyone who chooses to consume a story in whatever way they find it easiest to consume. For some people, it's books. For others, it's watching a TV show. For others, yet others, it's movies. And some others, it's games. And it's all okay. I think to me, what really matters is you're spending at least 30 minutes or so in your day, taking time to immerse yourself in a story. So from the very beginning, we sort of always had this, what do we start with? We're a startup. In the beginning, it was just me and one other developer. We decided to start with books because I'm a bookworm and I love reading books and I'll always be a bookworm. And so we'll continue to make books a big part of what we build on Fable. There's still a lot more work we know we have to do on the book side, and we'll continue to do it. But we also knew that we were excluding a big part of the population who love stories, but may or may not be a bookworm and love to read a book for whatever reason. And we chose TV shows for several reasons. First, we already saw conversations in our For You feed where people were talking about shows, whether it was a book made into a show or something they just watched that got their attention. A lot of conversations were happening about TV shows. And we also did user research, like we always do. Chris's team and our designers, we have experts in user research. They interview people, take those learnings, and figure out what should we work on next. What is there a demand for? What is there a need for? The third thing I would say is the product we built for books, we felt was very much adaptable to TV shows. So with things like lists, you can keep track of shows you watched, maybe eventually movies you would watch, things you liked. The club structure works because we built it where you avoid spoilers through discussion rooms. Those sorts of things work for episodes too. You can use those rooms for chapters when you're reading a book or episodes when you're watching. So a lot of features we've built in the product we felt were really applicable. For that reason, we chose to do TV shows next. But yeah, I think the important point is we're a platform that focuses on creators who create beautiful, immersive experiences that we call story. I think for me, as the founder of Fable, for me, a story is an immersive experience, not an object.
Me too. So glad that we can add these new stories, and I've been enjoying it a lot. So, Chris, actually, maybe I can turn to you for a second. Do you want to just introduce yourself, your role, and how you put this project together, and just kind of walk us through the practicalities of just for anyone in the audience who doesn't know or needs to learn just a little bit more about how it works, how TV content works on Fable. Do you want to just talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure thing. So I guess just to start on the intro side, I'm Chris, head of product here at Fable. So what does product mean? It means really at the end of the day, it means what is most important for us to build next? Like, how do we make sure that we're translating the vision of stories for everyone into a really fun product, a really safe product, and one that's really useful for everyone? So that's where I spend a lot of my time, is understanding, listening to kind of feedback from the community, or we're doing user research, kind of pairing that together with data. So that's where I spend most of my time. And as it relates to, okay, what did this project look like? What did we actually ship? What can you actually use in the app now? So as Padma was mentioning, a lot of the TV show features are really kind of piggybacking on what we've already built for books. So you can create or you can join a TV club now. Within a TV club, if the club selects a season of a show, then we will create episode rooms instead of chapter rooms. So that's a really nice feature to avoid spoilers. You can have kind of conversations once you catch up to the right episode. So there's that. There's being able to create watch lists in addition to your reading lists. So obviously I have like, I feel like a lot of us have like these huge backlogs of books that we want to read. And we're now just starting to also build those backlogs of TV shows that we want to watch. So there's that. On the For You feed, you can also now create posts where you tag, a TV show, or you tag a specific season of a TV show, and you can kind of have conversations on that. A lot of these features really work together to make sure that we are connecting you with people who are interested in the same TV shows as you and the same books as you, as we've already done. And then kind of starting the conversation from there. And once you start meeting people in the community who are following the same TV shows and watching the same things, you can start DM threads together, you can start new clubs together, all that type of stuff. So, if I had to categorize how do we think about Fable, the product, we kind of break it down mentally into 3 different areas. There's the community, there's organization, and there's discovery. And we kind of have a little bit for all 3 of those buckets right now.
That's awesome. I wanted to ask, this question came through in the Q&A, and I think it's a really good one. Congratulations on the launch of Fable, says Allie. What did you learn from this launch experience? And I was really glad that question was floating here, and it seemed like a good time to ask both of you. So I'll maybe ask Padma first, and then Chris too. I'd love to hear your answer, because I'm sure we've all learned a lot in the last week.
I mean, by the way, I have a blog on LinkedIn that I call Lifelong Learning. I'm a big believer that one has to constantly learn, right? Like when you're building a product, when you're building a company, when you're raising your children, when you're just being a person in society, there's things we learn every day. So from that perspective, this launch specifically was, there's some really good things we did, I think, as a team, and there are some things we could have done better. I think by the way, I don't know if people know this, after we launch every big feature, we're pretty disciplined. Within a week or so, we do something called a retro. We all get together and we discuss what did we do well, where could we have done better. We take those learnings for next time. So our ambition is, with that process, we get better and better. So with this particular launch, I think what we did really well, it was a lot of work, by the way. I mean, kudos to Chris and his team and the engineering team. We're a small team. I don't know if people know this or not. We are nowhere like many companies, tech companies that start with an A. We're a tiny, tiny company. And, so we always have to figure out what we're going to do, and more importantly, what we're not going to do. So I thought the execution really went well. It was very quick. We decided to do this, in January, I think, and we launched in a very, very short period of time. We had to create a catalog of all the different shows, and that was a tough problem. So I felt like the execution was really amazing and very fast. The response has been, by and large, very positive. People love that we're adding TV shows, because many people, like I said, consider stories to be coming to them through shows as well. We did stub our toes on a few things, I think, and Chris will talk more about it. And some of you, by the way, thank you for the feedback. We got some tough feedback, tough love, as I call it, which is always welcome. We take all of that very seriously. We don't just give it lip service. We looked through all the comments. I personally read through all the comments where we asked people to opt in for books, and then we showed them TV content. So we could have done our filtering algorithm better in the beginning, I think, but we responded very quickly. Chris's team implemented a fix within 8 hours. So those are some learnings from it. Overall, I'm very excited. I'm seeing some TV clubs that I personally want to be part of. I suspect I am now going to have a long list of shows I want to watch, just like books I want to read. After I started Fable, my TBR list has really, really grown. But the beautiful part is I no longer need to randomly go around asking people what show should I watch, what book I should watch. I sort of like get all these recommendations, and the discovery on Fable is amazing. I love that.
Yeah, the discovery from the community is just like the best.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can chime in as well. So yeah, very much agreed with a lot of what you said, Padma. I think overall, it was quite a big project. And so if there's something that we learned about like the execution and whatnot, it's like, how do we rally the whole company around a single improvement to the product, which I think worked really well. Internally, there was just a lot of momentum, excitement, but I do want to just like, for everyone here, like if you see a Fable employee in the For You feed, or if you're in the same club with them, like give them a little kudos, a shout out, because there were so many people who worked really hard on this and like kind of showed dedication to make this experience really good on launch day. So that was great. In terms of yeah, I think the reaction from the community, like there was a lot of amazing positivity, and so that was really nice to see. And I think it was really helpful that one thing that we were actually doing just to make sure that we can like be actually listening to all the community comments and responses and whatnot, we're able to, of course, like look through the For You feed and look at all the posts that mention things about the update and things about TV shows, that type of stuff. And those comments were super helpful. That's what I think, Padma, you were referring to in terms of reading every comment. We are really actually looking at all of that stuff. And we're discussing what are the trends, what are the things that people like, you know, are wanting next. That type of stuff has been super helpful for deciding, okay, what's the next steps from here?
Mm-hmm.
So you just set up my next question, and I was going to ask this anyways, but Ali also posed it in the Q&A. What are the story mediums in the future of Fable, if you can tease? They wrote, yeah, it's such a fun question, and I wanted to just put that out there.
Yeah, I mean, I can jump in as the founder. I give Chris a long list of things to do. You know, half of them he ignores, and some of them he does. Because he has to get things done, right? And he's awesome at that. I think for sure movies is on our roadmap, you know, because of a lot of similarities to TV shows. And, you know, it is another popular medium of conveying a story in a powerful way. So that's definitely on our list. I can say that. When, I can't say. I think, like I said, a big task, by the way, for a company our size is deciding what not to do and what to do next. And so I think we do have some improvements that we need to make. So we'll probably make those and then tackle movies. You know, after movies, what comes after? I just said, like, stories to me come in many different formats. There's games that are a format of stories. There's podcasts that are sometimes stories, especially like fictional podcasts these days are sort of like, if you are depending on, you know, which generation you're from, there used to be like these radio shows, right? Like there's some podcasts that are really fictional. So those sorts of medium could be something else we tackle. Yeah, there's short stories that are written as well. There's fan fiction. There's many different kind of stories we want to embrace. It's just a matter of how quickly we can do some of those things. But yeah, definitely I would say movies is next.
Mm-hmm. That actually made me think of another thing that I learned about, you know, from the launch. You know, one of the challenges for us, and one of the things that we need to really just make sure that we stay really conscientious of is we've definitely learned that there's a lot of people in the community who love both books and TV shows and really want to connect with each other over both of those media, and that's really awesome. But then there's people who are really only here for books and want to connect with other people, specifically in the bookish community. And that's also really awesome. And that's also really important. And so that's something that I think we're you know, discussing internally as we, you know, one day start thinking about, okay, what's next beyond TV shows. We really need to make sure that the experiences of those different communities works really well. So as we start expanding beyond into other media, we don't necessarily want to make it so like, hey, everybody has to participate in all forms of storytelling here.
Exactly. I think, everyone has a different preference, and I think as we are learning, we'll figure out how we can give you exactly what you want. If you're here only for books, you'll get only books. If you're here for both, you'll get both. If you're here only for shows, that's what you'll get. If you want movies, that's what you'll get. That's the ambition that we have with the platform.
I want to ask a follow-up question to that point. So if as it's really fun and inspirational and to think towards the future of Fable in these different ways it can expand. But one thing that we did hear as the feedback came through is a lot of people really value how cozy Fable feels, how safe it feels here, and how it does feel like a very small, cozy community. So as we grow, as these new parts of the community pop up and start interacting with each other, how is Fable going to protect that sense of coziness and safety? I think it's a question.
Yeah, I mean, that's front and center for me and the whole team for sure, right? Like part of the reason I founded Fable was to help people who are tired of all the doom scrolling and the toxicity of these broad social networks that, where the noise is sometimes so much larger than the signal. I was a very early user of X, which used to be Twitter before, and it started off great and then slowly started to degrade, and now I don't use it anymore. And so I wanted to create something that was very different from those platforms. So I think what we do is when we are building out like even community features, we always think about giving users the option of choosing how large or small they want their community to be. So, for example, when we did clubs, it was a very intentional decision to offer you the option to say, is this a private club or a public club? We have many clubs, by the way, that are private clubs with 2 people. And, private clubs are actually growing faster on our platform. So people come to join a large club and then they go off and start their own club with people they like. And I love that part of Fable. I actually would love to see more and more private clubs for TV shows and other things, where it's just a small group of people discussing things, right? And so that's an example of a feature. The other thing you can do is you can make your list public or private. You can keep your private list and you don't need to share that list with everyone. So these are all options, tools we give people to keep how much you share and who you share with. I think those are the types of things we'll continue to do. My mandate to my head of design, Travis, and then to Chris is making sure as we're expanding to different formats, we don't clutter the For You feed. And I think we have UI and designs that allow you, and I'll let Chris talk to you more about that, where you can have a different feed, for example, for the things that you're looking for. So everything we do from design up front, we think about that a lot. So it's front and center. Will we make mistakes? I'm sure we will. And I'm sure you'll tell us when we make mistakes. And that's why I love having this type of an interaction with all of you as well. But yeah, that's the goal, Jason.
I have 2 things just to touch on what you said, Padma. I think definitely agreed with all of that. One of the really important things, as we were kind of talking about, for people who are really just here for books or people who are really just here for TV shows right now, one of the things that we've talked about internally is that each of those media requires some different features. Like there's a lot of overlap for sure, but then some features, for example, we've talked about like streaks is a feature that doesn't necessarily translate over to TV shows. But it's really important for us to still maintain investment in features that make the bookish side of Fable feel like a really, have its own identity. And then, eventually same for TV shows, we need to invest in features that, really make this a great experience for people who love TV shows. And so that's an important thing. You mentioned the kind of being able to have different feeds. one of the things that's like really top of mind for us is that for people who are here for both books and TV shows, the For You feed can be a little bit tough to navigate in the sense that you're seeing books and TV shows intermixed right now. We're currently working, we're starting the project of being able to separate that out as an option. It'll be kind of an optional experience, but certainly I think we've heard in some of our user research sessions that we do that some people really have like, they're excited about the TV shows thing, but they want to have like a books mode that they're like, hey, right now I need a new book and I want to engage with the community around my book habits, and then separately for TV shows later as well. And so no timeline right now, but we're working on that project. So I'm really excited for that to come out.
Chris, I just wanted to, I want to tell you about my friend, a friend from high school, Justin. We have a private club. It's just the two of us. We love it. We talk about books, just the two of us. He's kind of a grumpy guy. He does not want to talk about TV. He only wants to talk about books. So when someone's just like, I only want books, can you just walk us through what that person would have to go through and what steps they would take?
Yeah, totally. So good question. By default, if you were already a member of Fable before we launched TV shows, your experience should already be just books. We kind of take the assumption that if you're already here for Fable before we even mentioned TV shows to people, then you're probably at least here for that. But if you want to add TV shows as well, into your Fable experience, you can go to settings and then manage content preferences. And that's where you can then opt into TV shows. If you're a new user, all new users right now in the onboarding experience, you should be able to see, we kind of give you the option of, hey, what are you here for? What are you trying to explore? You have the option of books, TV shows, or both. So hopefully for your friend, if they were an existing member of the community, by default, they should be set to books.
Okay, follow-up question. So when my friend sees the errors of his ways and joins my club that I've made for 3-Body Problem, which I'm bugging him to do, how can I get him back on TV? Because I'm sure if he hasn't, he will switch to just books.
Sorry, could you clarify? When they...
if I can convince him to come to my television show club that I have created. I created a club. If anyone wants to join, I created a club for 3-Body Problem. It's one of my favorite books, and I like the show too. And I would love to talk about it with him, but at the moment he just says books only. But if he does change his mind and wants to come to books and TV, how can he do that? Or is he locked in books forever?
Gotcha. No, good question. So 2 things. First of all, if you are set to books only, you can still join TV show clubs. You can still search for TV shows. You can do all of those things. You're not locked in right now. So that's the first thing. But then more importantly, if your friend wants to then start exploring the world of TV shows on Fable, that's when you'd go to settings and then manage content preferences and then select both in terms of what you're here for.
Awesome. Thank you. I do. So we have a question in the Q&A, and I was also going to ask about this too. It's for the Android community in the Fable community. Can you speak more about why the Android users don't always have the same features as iOS users, and what are our plans like moving forward for this group of users in our community?
Yeah, no, I'll address that. Thank you so much for that question, by the way. My husband's an Android user, and always was, always will be. He will not switch to an iPhone. So we have our own family where he's always complaining that he doesn't have all the features I have on my iPhone. So I feel it. And, for us, Android is really important for a couple of reasons. It's we are, like I said, want to be an inclusive platform. It is stories for everyone, not just stories for iOS users, right? So that's our vision. So for that reason, we want to be inclusive. We know it's a big platform. We did invest in Android right from the get-go. From the very start, we made a decision that we want to have parallel development. We resourced both teams the same. So it's not as if we it's not as if Android has been secondary for us, not at all. Android has always been a priority, will continue to be a priority. Having said that, for whatever reason, our development on Android takes longer. It could be the development environment. It could be the ease at which we can release features on iOS. We don't exactly know why it is. So we are aware of it, not trying to hide from that fact at all. We acknowledge that, and we're trying to figure out what do we need to do to get to parity. Occasionally we do release features the same time. I think group chat was one of those. We made a conscious decision. We wanted to have that feature available on iOS and Android. So it's not as if we always release things on iOS. What we are doing now, though, because we're a small team, like I said, we have made a decision to launch many of our features first on iOS to see which features get better traction, so that we can actually focus the Android team more on the things that we think will actually appeal to our users in general, using the data we are getting from iOS. So that is a strategy we are taking. Look, I think as soon as we understand how we can get to parity, we are committed to bringing Android users to have all of the features iOS has. But at the same time, sometimes we may find we launch a feature and that feature is actually not getting a good response. No point investing resources in duplicating that on Android. So this strategy, we believe, will help us decide which features we need to prioritize for Android users as well. And Android engineers are hard at work. We have a couple of the best engineers working on this, and it pains them every time they hear you guys say, "Why don't I have this on Android?" I can swear by that, and they're working very hard to get us to parity. So yeah, we're very committed to Android is the bottom line.
Thank you. It's a great question, and thank you for asking it. One quick question, well, maybe not quick. Ali dropped into the Q&A and asked some very specific questions about managed content preferences and what that looks like. And Chris and Padma, with your permission, is it okay if I just share screen for 1 second? And then Chris, do you want to just walk us through these settings just for a moment? Just we can visually show people how this works. And I think that's the best way to answer your question, Ali.
Yeah, Ali, I understand your question, and yeah, we can go through this.
Go.
All right. Jason, do you want me to read off the question and then answer it? Or?
Well, yeah, actually you can read off the question. Yeah.
I won't read it word for word, but I think the gist of it is basically, can we just clarify what managed content preferences actually does for your experience? Because if it's not filtering out TV shows everywhere, then, and then you can still join a TV show club if you're books only, like, what does it really mean? So I think it's a totally good question. Yeah, basically, the key thing is that in the For You feed, you should see if you're set to books only or if you're set to TV only, in the For You feed, you should see really just that content for you. So you'll just see books or you'll just see TV shows. So that's the most important thing, like the kind of the biggest impact of that feature. The other thing that it'll also do, so maybe Jason, if you can jump over to the Explore tab. We basically have two different tabs in the Explore tab and then the Library tab. And there's other places in the app where we have the same features across, books and TV shows. So basically, if you are set to, let's say, like TV only, that you're just here for TV only, then we'll just at least default you to the right tab on this in here. So basically, your default experience throughout the rest of the Fable experience should be focused on whatever content preference you set. But if you want to go and explore books, or if you're set to books only and you want to go explore TV shows, you can still do that. Did that explain it, Jason?
Yeah, let me just jump into, I do want to show everybody settings as well, where Here's the manage content preferences in this menu. And this is where you can change it at any time.
Yep.
And
yeah, I think maybe
actually,
make sure you maybe remind everyone to make sure they're updated their app as well.
oh yeah, that's a good point.
Mm.
And you can check on your version of the app that you're running down here at the bottom. You can see what version of the app you're running.
Yep.
And then maybe also clubs. This is one place where you will see a little bit of like if you only want TV or if you only want books, you can still see the popular TV club carousel. Then there will be a few TV carousels mixed in there. But we try to keep it, make sure the books are central for you.
I think we have the books filter at the
important.
top.
Yeah.
There's books and TV shows,
That's true.
those
There we
filters
go.
there.
Yep.
So
Yep.
yeah, you can kind of filter down.
So that's important. And I think that's it. Oh, the library, your watch lists are right
Yeah,
here as
library
well.
also has that.
Yeah, so that was it. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, no, good question.
Ali, I hope that answered your question. And please, you can post in the chat if you need a follow-up. Happy to work on it too. And then also there's a question that was appended to that, is an edit option ever coming for future comments? And as someone who makes a lot of mistakes when typing my numerous comments, I'd love to know that too.
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say that right now is not on our roadmap, not because we like fundamentally disagree with it, more just that we haven't heard too many people ask for that. But that's why we do these sessions, is to hear from, you know, our active community what would be helpful. So it's helpful to hear that would be helpful for you. In general, for all those types of things, honestly, like one of the most helpful things for us is when people write into support@fable.co. And if you include a feature request, include like why you would want it, like how you would use that feature, what are the cases in which, you know, it's been an issue, you didn't have it. That type of stuff is like gold for us on the product team. So, but still, even if you just send say, hey, I want this feature, like that's still helpful because then we're hearing how much of the community is wanting a feature.
Mm-hmm. Padma is way ahead of me here. She's already answering questions in the chat about how to get out of a reading slump. I wanted to add one piece that I have found so helpful since working at Fable. My favorite thing to do is to switch formats. So I might be struggling to read some of those print books that are back there at night. I might be distracted, but if I take my dog for a walk and listen to an audiobook, for whatever reason, I pop out of it. And so I highly recommend, as Padma suggested, go switch formats, try something short and digital on Fable. If that doesn't work, try an audiobook. If that doesn't work, try a print book. But that's usually my best advice for jumping out of a reading slump, is change your format. That's always helpful for me. And
I mean, the other thing that helps me, by the way, for reading slump, and I think it's something we all go through, right? I think it's you know, if you are busy with life and you get to a point where you feel like I don't have time, and then you fall behind, it's always difficult to catch up. What helps me is like read, even if it's a novel I'm reading in short bursts. Just read like 10 minutes, and that's enough, and then feel good about that. You can still mark your streak on Fable as read, even if it's 10 minutes. And then you'll see your streaks progress. And then maybe I just read 10 minutes a day for the last week. So it takes me longer to finish a full book, but that's okay, I think. And then eventually I get caught up in the story, and some on the weekend, maybe I'll read longer. So I think that's the other trick I use to get out of a reading slump, is if I don't want to switch format, I'll just read short amounts or short amount of time every day.
That's awesome. I do want to make everyone, I want to be mindful of everyone's time. We have about 10 minutes left. So if you do have more questions, please pose them now, because I want to make sure all of your questions get answered. That's most important. I could ask questions all day, though. I've got lots of things I'm interested in. One of them is I would love to know, Chris, what was the most, I mean, we just got out of this enormous project, undertaken in a very short amount of time. What was the most challenging part of this project, and where did you have the most fun with this massive undertaking?
I love that. That's a good question. Most challenging part of this project had to have been the fact that this was everyone at the company working together. There's a lot of times where we're working on various projects that, they're all important to ladder up to the vision, but they are different projects. In this case, we had the entire company rallying together. And one of the challenges with that is just coordination and making sure that everyone's on the same page, making sure that, people are connected together to make sure that they're unblocking each other. And then, just in terms of engineering, when we plan engineering projects, we usually like estimate the project in advance. And then as we get closer to that ship date, we then have to like really evaluate for ourselves, are we on track to hit that ship date? Do we need to extend it? Those types of things were pretty tough. That was one of the most tough ones. What's actually really interesting, and I could save the details of this for a different time, but it's a fun thing, I feel like, for people to hear about, like, what are the internal hard conversations to have sometimes. One of them was actually, do we allow you to track your TV shows at the season level or at the series level or at the episode level? It's actually not an easy problem. Like, everyone kind of, you might immediately think of like you might say, hey, of course it should be episode level. But like the person next to you actually would be like, no, of course it should be at the season level. There are a lot of like, strong opinions there from all sides. And that was an interesting one. I can go into the details some other time on that, but yeah.
I remember that discussion. And I mean,
Yes.
I like one of those things, some of these things, there's no right or wrong answer. You just have to decide, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully eventually we'll get down to an episode level, because some shows you do want to rate every episode, but most shows you want to rate at the season level. If you're a Game of Thrones fan, for example, definitely would weigh in more at the season level. Yeah, whereas some other episodes are like British Baking Show is more at an episode level. So it depends on the show too.
Totally. Yeah. In terms of the most fun part of the project, I would say there were multiple moments in the project where I think collectively as a company, we all felt like, oh, this can be really cool. Like what we are working on can be something that is a fun experience, useful for people. I think that happened at a couple different moments throughout the project. First is when we really start creating a clear vision for what we're building and had concept designs. So the design team did a really great job early on of visualizing, here's what it can be, here's how people can use it in the future. That was one moment. Another moment was when we got all of our TV show catalog really stood up, and we were able to start searching for TV shows. That was big for us internally. Another one was, I don't know, a lot of people probably haven't noticed, but we totally revamped our homepage, and it's like beautiful. The design team did such a great job with it. We have these really beautiful new illustrations. And so I think that's like another example of a moment when internally at the company, you just see like the glimmer of hope in everyone's eyes that this can work out. We're gonna, make something really cool here.
I remember that moment well, and I couldn't talk to anybody about it. It was so frustrating. I wanted to tell everybody. We do have two more quicker questions that are kind of about other features. Lee asks, will Fable books be available offline? I wanted to read a book on a flight and realized it wouldn't open up. I'm not sure if this is an Android experience or if they're not meant to be available offline. So just wondering if you talk about offline features and what the product roadmap looks like for that.
Yeah, they are. I mean, on iOS, they're definitely available. You can read offline. I just came from LA, and before that, I flew to New York. I read the whole way. So you can read the book. I think maybe you won't be able to download the book if you're offline, because if you already downloaded it before you boarded the flight and you have the app running in background and the book open, you can definitely read online. offline. The features that are not available offline are if you highlight something or anything, you post an emoji, it syncs when you are back online. So you won't immediately see those comments. You won't be able to have discussion in the club, etc. But you can definitely read on iOS, or I'll have to check on Android. I'm pretty sure on Android you can read offline too, but you can't download the book. You have to download and have it running in the app before you board.
Thanks. And then we also have a question from Berna asking, do the shows in Netflix automatically update on Fable when we choose the show to discuss? And then how about international shows? This is something that I think for all Bridgerton fans is going to be a big deal in about a month here.
The shows in Netflix automatically update in Fable when we choose the shows to discuss. I'm not sure I fully understand what the question is about, but basically right now we have a deep catalog of TV shows. We don't have all TV shows, so definitely let us know if there's particular shows that you're missing. That's helpful to hear. And
I think automatically update. I'm not sure because you pick a show and you choose and attach it to your club. So I think I'm not sure if they mean, Berna, I don't know if you mean when you finish watching the show, will it automatically mark it finished? I don't know if that's a question.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Right now, we don't
I think
have
it's actually like for Bridgerton, when third season comes out next month, will it update? Will we be able to see it automatically updated in the calendar with the new episodes? Yeah.
Great question. Great feature idea.
Yeah, that would be a great feature. We don't have that right now. So once you finish season 2 of Bridgerton in your club, you'll then just need to go in and pick season 3 of Bridgerton in your club.
Correct. That's a great idea, though. Thank you.
Yeah, that's cool.
Great question. Also, I love the monthly wrap, says Ali, but how can we tie it to reading dates instead of just manually putting it in?
Ali, I very much agree. Because we do have reading dates, like we should automatically know which books you read. And that's just a matter of we haven't had a chance to kind of come back to that. So yeah, no, great feature suggestion.
Another great idea.
Yeah.
All right, I think we've now covered everything in the Q&A. Let me just go look at the comments. I want to make sure I didn't miss anybody. Oh, there's a lot of comments here. I want to make sure I didn't miss anything down here.
I think Ellen has been responding. I saw a few questions I responded to. Yeah, if there's any other last minute questions, please feel free to post.
I love this question. Are there book club meetings on Zoom? Actually, I just wrote earlier this week for the newsletter and for the post. I did a post for a book called a club called No Shelf Control. It's with this guy named Sean, and he does live TikTok meetings with his readers, and his engagement is just off the charts. It's the most dedicated, tight-knit little group of people I've ever seen, and I highly recommend checking out that club if you're looking for kind of more of a video interaction with people. Sean is a lovely person. I was texting with him over a DM. Just try that club out. No Shelf
But
Control.
by the way, I was just pointing out anyone can do that. If you want to start a club, we have a feature where you basically can put a Zoom link or Google Meet link or Microsoft Teams link, whatever your favorite video conference is. The moderator can if you are the moderator of the club, you can put the link in the discussion room and then invite everyone to join that. So you don't necessarily have to go find a moderator who's doing Zoom calls. You can start a club yourself, invite your friends and do Zoom calls and put that. I mean, in the beginning, I was doing that in my club. Every quarter or so, I would have a Zoom call. This was during COVID when we were all in lockdown. I was actually as a moderator doing that. And so we have that feature available. Some people use it, others don't. That's what I think somebody asked that question. I put that answer. It's very easy. You just have to copy the link and post it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a really cool way to interact with people. Chris, before I let everyone go, I do want to ask about dark mode. It's something we hear a lot of people asking about, and I know it's important to us also. Like we read at night, and we want to keep keep the healthy side of reading going. So, what are your thoughts about dark mode?
Yeah, no, good question. Yeah, definitely for starters, we do have dark mode in the reader. So if you're reading a book on Fable, you can set that to dark mode. But then I think a big question is when can we have that throughout the rest of the app as well? The tricky part with dark mode is just the amount of work it takes to build it is actually, unfortunately, like quite a lot. And so we'd have to pause a lot of work or kind of like multiple projects to be able to do that. As Padma mentioned, we're just a super small team right now, so it's definitely not a no. We are internally, we really do want to do it. We don't have an update right now on when we think we can get to it, but we're definitely discussing internally, and we are hearing the feedback from the community on that one.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. I mean, I can actually second that. Chris just messaged me on Slack this morning saying, should we prioritize dark mode? So it's the prioritization discussions happening real time.
We really are discussing because it's yeah, I think as employees we feel the pain as well. Like it would be really nice to open the app at night and have kind of a darker experience.
Padma, Chris, thank you so much for taking this time. I genuinely enjoy speaking with you. And it's been so lovely seeing all of these comments. Thank you for everyone that was chatting with us here. I really appreciate it. It's nice to meet some people. And please keep in touch. I'm just jason@fable.co. Please send me any questions, thoughts. Happy to pass them along to the team. But thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today.
Hey,
And
thank you,
Jason,
Jason, and thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing a great job. Thanks, Chris, for making the vision a reality. And thank you, everyone, for being on Fable. Definitely, as always, send us feedback. It's been so lovely talking to people. And if you find that this is useful and enjoyable, we're happy to do it more frequently too.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you to Ellen, who's been doing all of the hard work in the comments. I really appreciate it. And she, like Padma says, wears so many hats around here, and we're so grateful for her. So thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.